Good morning everyone. Before we get into it, we may have a problem with the internet here, so if it cuts out then just wait until it fully loads. We're in another hotel on our way back to Les Sables d'Olonne, still in Malta, and yeah, maybe a problem. Anyway, I'll get into it, and a few things happening. First one is, I think most of you probably know that Elliot has actually found his way into Simonstown in Cape Town. We haven't heard anything yet, or I certainly haven't. I don't think anyone in the office has heard any news on what Elliot's planning at this stage, but he's got a broken bowsprit. He's just here in Simonstown, and he'll assess the situation without getting too far into it. It obviously would be repairable. It's or not repairable. They'd have to build a new bowsprit, which would take some time. Even if we had a lot of people jumping on it and threw a bit of money at it, it's still going to take time. So we'll wait until we hear from Elliot and see what's going on. Someone may be down there to take some photos. I'm not sure yet, but we'll keep you updated on that. So at the back end of the fleet here, I just scale this back. We've got Ian Herbert Jones, got a fair bit of wind, and he altered course yesterday. It looked very much like he was heading south to get down into the roaring 40s, and based on the wind, if he based on the wind direction he had, normally if he was going to Cape Town he'd be heading this way, but he wasn't, and maybe he had a sudden change of mind. We'll find out when he gets there, but it's pretty clear now he's making his way to Cape Town. Excuse me. At 6.2 knots, which is pretty impressive, and distance to go to Cape Town, if we just a rough distance for now, he's let's see, he's about 120 miles, so depending on what happens to this wind, but it'll roll over, and I think he'll have wind all the way there. It's a little bit less than 24 hours, so it could be early hours of tomorrow morning. We'll have to wait and see, but we'll start updating ETAs today and let you know how that's going. Okay, we'll come back here to Arnaud and Guy. They've been making pretty good progress. There's still a fair way out, but last night they were doing okay. Slowed down again now, 3.3 knots for Arnaud, heading directly to Cape Town. Let's hope it doesn't come in with the southeasters. And Guy looks like he's heading up just to keep the apparent wind high so he can keep moving, because the wind's coming from the south-southwest, and he's now coming down to keep the wind forward of the beam. Plus he knows he's a little bit high as well, needs to get down there, but only making 2.8 knots. Jeremy is going to get a bit of a kick along with this one. He's making 7 knots. He's possibly even got a bit of current there, but they've got a pretty strong northwesterly. Just by the colour tones here, it's probably blowing 30, gusting 35, 40 maybe, and the sea state will be getting up. Let's just have a look at some of this. Sea state waves. It's sort of into the 3 meters, but it's going to get a little bit bigger as that rolls across. If we just roll that through a day, Ian's got some pretty big seas as well. You can see here this is up around 5, 6, so that constant northwesterly is going to build the seas steadily, but at least it should be maintained in the same direction. It's not going to roll around to the southwest really fast. Currents, let's see what's happening here. Yeah, he's going across. That could get interesting. He's potentially in a very uncomfortable sea right now, because with a northwesterly, it's just the current's still just kicking a little bit wind against tide. If you can imagine that, that's a southwesterly current he's going through, and he's got a northwesterly or a little bit more than a northwesterly. So the moment the wind starts to get forward of the current, it makes the waves stand up. So he'll be happy to get across that one, and then at this current course he's going to run into these guys, so that could be some little uncomfortable ride there for Jeremy. Ian Herbert Jones on the current there, he's got a head current at the moment, so he's doing pretty well it's on the beam at the moment rather than the head current, and nothing really affecting Arnaud and so on back there. So if we come back to the wind here, going forward, that's basically a day ahead. In a day ahead, okay, it's swung around already for Jeremy in 24 hours, so it'll be southwest. By the time he gets into that current, it might not be so bad. So, but good breezes for southwesterly coming across. Go forward another day. This is the problem, being up too high, so the guys at the back are going to have headwinds again, and that's in 2 days' time. So they're the wrong side of this little high forming here. We've gone through that often. This is where you're meant to be coming up in these southwesterlies here, so it's unfortunate, but they're making the most of it, which is good. Ian Herbert Jones, plenty to get in there to Cape Town, so we should see him very soon. Okay, just scaling back now to the rest of the fleet. Captain Goog will come back to today's weather for this end of the fleet. So we've got you'll see what happens to Jeremy. We'll discuss that. We've got Captain Goog there, and Simon making his way out the front. Abelish and Kirsten having a bit of fun down the back here. Let's just see what their relative distances are. We'll just take an average here, about 750 miles in front, generally speaking, for Simon. He's got a break, a really healthy break there, so if he can keep it all together, he's looking really good. If anything, I would say he's still close to the no-go zone here, but anyway, it depends on how the weather works out. And Jean-Luc screaming away up here, and Bernard Matessia up here in the 40s. We'll put the grid on just so you can see the relative positions. This is the 40th parallel of latitude, and that's where the roaring 40s are. So it's pretty interesting. But you can see here, I was talking about the systems being further south this year because of the weather. Here's a constant westerly airflow. Usually you'd get a lot of this constant westerly here. It's west all the way along. Usually that would be up along here somewhere. But this Antarctic vortex, or it's not really called a vortex, but Antarctic upper wind influences, predicted to, and it is actually keeping everything further south. So what you got here is southerlies, northerlies, southerlies. It just means it's going to be quite an interesting ride across the bottom here. And in fact, let's have a look while we're talking about it all the way around. Yeah, it's the same. The westerlies, all of this stuff here is way south. Now you can see it's up around here. That's not so bad, but very interesting. No big storms. That's a good thing. But yeah, quite interesting weather. So it might take them a little bit longer to get across. Okay, so Captain Goog in this northerly is currently making 8.3. That's pretty cool. Let's see what's going on there. Okay, that's pretty impressive, and the currents are going across. He's down a little bit, so he got a little bit of a hook, but boy, he's flying. So that's fun. Good on you, good. Okay, so Abelish is kicking into a stream here, but Kirsten's not, so Abelish might get a kick. These colour zones here is a good 2.5 knots, maybe 3 in certain parts. So there's a current influence there for Abelish. He'll enjoy that ride. And even Simon down here, Simon's making 6.2. He's getting a little bit of a kick with the current, but he's cut across it pretty well, and yeah, that's not too bad. I think he had, no, what wind did he have? That's kind of interesting, if I remember rightly, today. Oh no, it's from the south, so that's okay. So it's with the current, not too bad. Okay, Abelish making 2.5 knots. Huh? That doesn't make sense. Now I'm getting 2.5 knots with the. Okay, Kirsten 2.5 as well. It's just light winds. Okay, it does make sense now. I'm not thinking too straight this morning. And let's now have a look at all three of them, what sort of weather to expect as it's going forward. So 1 day ahead, that high's disappeared completely, zipped forward, strong northwesterly here coming their way. Simon's got a lot less breeze. He'll be over here somewhere by that stage, so still sailing but not doing anything substantial. Another day, it's moving really fast, this front, so they should be able to handle that. And when it does go, because it's such a big system that this is all involved with, you've got the northwesterly, and when it goes southwest, suddenly it's very very light winds, so that doesn't give you the nasty sea change. So they should be able to handle that. And that's we've got that one 25th, so that's 2 days ahead. Yeah, and one more 26, 3 days ahead. Simon's going to be up here by then, so again very strong northwesterlies, but a very gentle slope going into the southwesterly, so they should be able to manage that as well. But plenty of big winds. I'll check this on windy the main windy site later to see what the wind forecast is in this sort of zone. But just on the coverage here, it's sort of forecasting 35, gusting 40, 45. Sea state will be up around 5-6 metres again. Let's have a look at, yeah, just in here you've got 6 metres plus. Yeah, they're well and truly in the Southern Ocean now, hopefully enjoying the ride. So I think we've covered off on everyone there. We'll come back to the wind, and I'm hoping this is streaming, but if not, be patient, it'll come back there later on. Yeah, Jeremy's doing 7 knots, all cool. Alright, so we'll look forward to seeing Ian in Hobart, and our volunteer team will be there getting into it, and we'll